This number is absolutely mind-blowing. 3,641,613%. So Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, puts out an annual letter to its shareholders, and this letter is full of a ton of great information. I will link it down below if you guys want to check it out, go read it in full. I highly recommend doing that. This video will focus on the first page of it, which is this list of their gains every year compared to the S&P 500. I want to show you guys some of these numbers to get a look at his performance, which will also tell us, because it's broken down by year, if he's still one of the greatest investors today. Now, there's no doubt he is one of the greatest investors of all time, but he's been doing this for a long time, and the world has changed so much over the last few decades. Is he still one of the great investors of today? We can find that out in the numbers, just looking at this. So, and the reason that I'm making this video is because as I was looking through these numbers, I noticed some of these incredible gains that absolutely contributed to this massive number here, right? 3 million% gain over the last however many years, compared to the S&P 500 making 30,000%, which is, I mean, hey, that's still a huge number, but it's nothing compared to 3 million%, right? I mean, he's averaging 20% a year, while the S&P 500 is averaging 10% a year. But I was looking at these numbers and I was thinking, you know, the reason that number is so big is because back in his earlier years, he had single years where he put up 78% in a year, 80% in a year, 129% in a year, 102%, right? 93%. These are astronomical numbers for single year gains, right? There's another one, 85% right there. But this was all a long time ago. We're talking about the 60s and 70s and 80s. Is he still putting up numbers like that? Well, I said, you know, why don't we just take a look at all the data since the year 2000, right? So I just basically I just drew a line right here. And I said, let's take all the numbers below that and average those out and see what we get. And that would give me a better idea of, is he still, you know, putting up above market average numbers in this market today, right? Because he made a killing on, you know, Coca-Cola and things like that back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Today, he's heavily invested in Apple and some other things, but he's not making his money today on the same stocks that he was making his money on in the 60s and 70s and 80s, right? It's a different game today. He's in different stocks. So is he still one of the best? Well, I drew that line right there and I averaged out all the numbers from 2000. So we're talking about 22 years of data as opposed to, 60 years of data, just to kind of get a better idea of what he's been doing lately, not what he's done all time or right, for the last 60 years. So I took 22 years, averaged them all out for him. I took the 22 years of the S&P 500 and averaged that out. And these numbers are pretty surprising because, you know, I went back and I looked at the earlier years, like I said, and they were 90% years, 80% years, 129% years. I'm like, you know, that's going to skew his numbers pretty heavily. I don't think he's going to be all that great over the last 20 years. I mean, he's not the same as he used to. You know, this was my thought going into this little project. And then I averaged out all these numbers and we got 11.17% for Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway over the last 22 years, which, hey, it's not 20%, right? It's a lot lower. It is better than 10.5% for the S&P 500's average over the last 60 whatever years, but it's pretty close to the same, right? 11 versus 10.5. However, over the last 22 years, the S&P 500 averaged 6.5% over the last 22 years. So, Warren Buffett, over the last 22 years, has outperformed the S&P 500 by almost 100%. He's almost doubled the rate of return over the last 22 years as the S&P 500. So the question is Does he still have it? Is he still the GOAT? Is he still the greatest of all time, the greatest investor of all time? Probably. I mean, the numbers suggest he's still got it. He's still outperforming the S&P 500 significantly. Significantly. You know, when Berkshire Hathaway's been putting up numbers like this for 60 something years, you probably learn a thing or two, and you learn how to evolve with the times as well, right? So while he was making a ton of money on Coca-Cola back in the day, now he's making a ton of money on Apple right now. Who knows? Where's he going to go next with his investments? Who knows? But he has figured it out. He's figured out how to outperform the market. So, yeah, he's still got it.